I want to get your view on some of this news that we're talking about right here. Again, Ukrainian forces using U.S.-made missiles to strike within Russia. Also, Russian President Vladimir Putin saying the threshold has changed for the use of nuclear weapons. In your mind, how does that impact the trading day ahead?
Yeah, well, listen, you just talked about that. So, like, the conflict is escalating. But, I clearly expect to see some kind of reaction, immediate reaction, knee-jerk reaction. But in terms of, like, longer term, this is year 3 of the conflict. And while initially we saw spikes in prices in terms of agricultural commodities, that's kind of like leveled off, right? Especially like wheat. We're now seeing wheat trading at a much lower trading range. So, long term, we've had less of an impact on our market. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see.
So it seems like right now you're trying to give us basically a reality check about all this that leads us into your word of the day, which is reality. Why is that your word of the day? What's the reality that we all need to face?
Well, first of all, there's perception and then there's reality. And I think that, especially over like the past few months, there's this perception that the economy is not doing well. And, inflation is down, employment is up, wage growth is up, it's outpacing inflation. Consumers, the consumers are strong. And so the reality is that the economy is actually doing quite well. The second thing is there's this perception of a Trump administration, and then there's the potential reality of a Trump administration. And so I think initially the market reacted favorably to the results of the election because, number one, the market does not like uncertainty, right? So we had some more certainty around that. But number two, the perception is that a Trump presidency administration is going to be more favorable to, potentially more favorable to stocks. But the reality is that, there is a bit of a wild card there. If he is able to implement his full, policy agenda, there's some potential risks, especially around tariffs.
You know what's another reality? We're going to get NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday after the bell. It's going to happen. That leads me to there's a new note from Bank of America out this week saying the market's all about these NVIDIA results, saying it's expected to be the market driver, at least in the near term. Analysts write in part that there's a real laser focus on the election, rates, and the Fed, as you were saying. But the option market suggests that NVIDIA earnings, they're still a very big deal for the broader market, perhaps a driver going forward. Do you agree with that? Is that reality?
I do. And so listen, Frank, you do this every single day. So whenever we have these big information drops, there's always a knee-jerk market reaction. And NVIDIA is such a big part of the S&P, of the NASDAQ. So, yeah, I do expect whatever the outcome of those results are, there's going to be a knee-jerk reaction. And it's also an indicator, especially like around AI, of what we can potentially see with some other names going forward.
All right. So you're saying that there's the perception of the Trump administration and then there's also the reality. What about the Trump trade? That's reality. Are there parts of that you think are sustainable beyond that initial post-election bump that can continue to go higher, like, for example, financials due to deregulation? Or we've seen Tesla. We saw Tesla move higher yesterday on the idea of deregulation.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that we're not really going to find out until we get well into 2025. Again, there were, campaign promises. And so if we're looking at the past, his past term, there were a lot of things said, and some things were done, and some things weren't done to the scale that was promised. So I think we're going to have to see. And I think his first 100 days will be quite telling. So I'm not making any long-term investment decisions based on campaign discussions. I really want to wait and see what those first days are like.
All right, let's talk about the investment decisions you are making. What's your pick for us today and why?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Frank, with all this talk around election and all the other things going on in the world, I mean, Thanksgiving is next week, right? So Black Friday, we are in it. 'Tis the season, and really for retailers, right? So if we're going to talk about retailers, there are a lot that I like because I am a shopper, but I'm just going to go big and say Amazon.
Amazon. So
yes.
Why in particular Amazon? We're going to show the chart here. I was looking at Amazon before the show, before this breaking news again. Ukrainian forces using U.S.-made long-range missiles to strike within Russia. The Russian president also saying that the threshold for the use of nuclear weapons has changed. So I was looking at the charts, and it seems pretty much the same. Amazon kind of trading in line with the S&P since the election. Why do you like it so much right now? And in your mind, is there a tariff concern? I mean, is there any other concern for a retailer like this that relies so much on goods that come from overseas?
So first, My decision to pick Amazon, first of all, it's in our portfolios. We're always looking for opportunities to add. Whenever we get a new client, Amazon is a staple. But ahead of holiday season, Amazon stands to be one of the largest benefactors of that. And so that is really my choice. But again, we have to really look and see how these potential Trump tariffs play out. It's one thing. We definitely.
Well, it's back to your word of the day, reality. We got to see what the reality is versus the perception. Tiffany McGhee, great to have you here.